history, it's a bit difficult because it's so far away. It's the Middle Age, and this house have been burned in the 15th, 16th century. So we have not so much archive about the domain, about the story. I have only what my grandfather and father told me, and that's the story is very old, and it's begun in 1102 by the Duc de Bourgogne. The Duc de Bourgogne owned all the property and give all the property to the Cistercian monks from Citeaux in 1142. And this is this date we have in the family. They begin to build the biggest house, the manor, and plant all the vineyard. There is some historians guys who comes and say it's probably a bit later, probably in 1180, 1190. We can say in 12th century, it's better. In the same family, my family buy here in 1853. I am the 6th generation, and we are one of the oldest and longest family owning this winery. From the monks, 1142 to 1622. The monks stays about more than 500 years, and that's the longest family, if we can say. After there was 3 different families, and my family by in 1853. So we are not directly the son from the monks. In first the monks create this monopole very carefully. They create this clos, closed by a wall, very carefully, and as a scientist. In first, the Clos la Perrière would be much bigger or much smaller, but they choose exactly this area because there is an harmony, and this harmony they already know how to make the great wines, the best wines, and to close this energy inside a wall. And so we call it the climat de Bourgogne in first. And all this climat in first was monopole. And generation after generation, family after families, all these areas have been shared, cut between the different families, brothers, sisters, buying and so on. Here it's very special, and there is now about, I don't exactly know, but about 40, 50 different monopoles closed by a wall too in Burgundy. The most famous is Romanée-Conti, of course, very small area of about 1 hectare. Here 5 hectares is quite exceptional to have 5 hectares in a monopole. In this such a quality and high-class terroir. Years after years, families after families, we always managed to have only one owner, and till now I am alone. And it's quite a real rarity in Burgundy. Mostly now with the increases prices of the lands, and it's much more difficult to keep it with one owner because, of course, we have to buy the other parts to the brothers or sisters or cousins or anything. And to have one owner, it's a challenge now. But it's a part of the quality of the wine because this area have been chosen like that, with this harmony, with this exactly size. And so to have, if I have only a part of the Clos la Perrière, I could make great wines, definitively. But because I have all this area, again chosen in the 12th century and work and built years after years, centuries after centuries, I have this quality there. There is different parts, and this is the talent of the monks. We are of course, we are thumping in the quality, but the magical part of the Clos la Perrière is this chosen, this area, and we are on the top of the slope of the coast, and we have 4 different terroirs. Of course, they are very similar, but there is a few influences. For example, we have the south part, who give more the fruity part of the Clos la Perrière. Here, the north part give more the minerality. And in the center and on the top of the slope, we have more the tannin structured part with the clay. And when you blend all these different areas, you have the perfect harmony. We always make tries with my wife mostly, and we say, for example, for the 2016, which was a hot year, a hot summer, we say perhaps we will cut the sauce part, we give more the fruity part, and give more in the Clos la Perrière the north part. But always, when we make these tries, always the best wine we can make is a blend of everything, always. So always we blend all the area of the Clos la Perrière. The part of the Chardonnay is, we call it the combe. There is some combe, difficult to explain in English. And the Chardonnay, it's a rarity. In this part of Burgundy, we call it Côte de Nuit, and Côte de Nuit we have much more Pinot Noir. And this very special piece of land of Chardonnay have been already chosen by the monks because it's the most calcareous and fresh part of the domain. It's really on the beginning of the combe, and there is all this fresh air coming from the forest, and very calcareous. We have not so much earth here, and it's perfect for the Chardonnay. With the different families, different generations, there is a part of the Clos la Perrière was not planted. When my father comes, he plants all the 5 hectares, but my grandfather only have 3.5 hectares planted. There is a part around the forest, and on the third part who was not planted. There was not so much money, and it was a tough period for them, and yes, it was like that. But my father managed to plant it, all the 5 hectares in the 70s, 1970s. That was very different, very different. After the culture was a bit similar than now. They try to make the best with what they have, and with not so much chemical products, and they have not so much this new disease we have, like mildew, like odium, like phylloxera. And now we try to have this mind and this respect of the earth, of the plants and the soil, and this knowledge of the great-great-great-grandfather was really special, was really admirable, because they understand what was growing, and the sound of the earth, the sound of the terroir, and listen and taste everything. Taste the earth, listen the vibrations, the mind, the quietness, or the riots, of the house and manage it and try to have always the best. The bottling, there is a really different area, different eras, and my great grandfather was making a lot of bottling here in the domain. After the different generation change and plants or not plants, all the area have some vineyards, other vineyards in Burgundy, in Fixin, in Gevrey-Chambertin, and they begin to sell a large part of the production to the big companies in Saint-Georges, in Beaune. We call them négociants. And the partnerships was very cool, with, as my grandfather said. And after, my father wanted to have this development and this sharing with the customers, and have the contact with the different customers. So he bottled a good part of the Clos de la Perrière. And after, when I come back from school, and I try to bottle all the lands, all the Clos de la Perrière, from 1998. 98 was totally bottled in the domain. And I stopped this in 2015 and refined a very nice partnership with the Bichot house in Beaune. And we have a very good partnership. From my grandfather and father, because of this bottling, we need the precision, always to be precise. To precise is not to be industrial, of course. It's to respect, really respect the house and the land and the Clos de la Perrière, this first chosen. So I just always listen to the sound, some sound of the earth, of the grapes, and of the vibration of the wine in the end. And so I try to listen always, and try to not have too much influence on the grapes and on the vinifications. The first thing to change, concerned by the whole generation, is the selection of the grapes. We have now machines for select, and a lot of people who select grape by grape and berries by berries, we can say. Yeah. And this is very important for the quality. We have to, of course, make our best to have the best grape in the vineyard, and after to keep them and have the best berries and the best grape, the best fruits in the vats. This is the first thing. After, when we do the vinification, like pigeage, like remontage, like anything, it's not so important. Of course, we have to understand the vintage, the year. But the most important is the quality of these berries and the selection before to put them in the vats. After, I try to not have very much influence. I always say that the less I do, the better I am. So it's a lazy philosophy, but I like that, and it's the best, I think, for the wine is to respect and just to see and to accompany the berries and the wine, and in the end to respect and to have an identity, a real identity of the wine and the terroir, the guy in the middle, but the terroir and the wine. Mr. Laval was an authority in Burgundy, and we always, from now, read these books and make importance about this classification. Of course, the Clos de la Perrière was classified on the same level as the Chambertin, the tête de cuvée in the end, like the Clos Vougeot. And I like to be compared with the Clos Vougeot because it's the same story, the same monks, and the same philosophy. We find the same architecture. Here we have a press from the 12th century, the same as the Clos Vougeot. And we have this connection with the Clos Vougeot and this similar aromas. And so the Mr. Laval say that it's the same classification, of course. And today the Clos Vougeot is a Grand Cru and Clos de la Perrière is a Premier Cru, but it doesn't matter for me. Of course, the professional and all the people who know about the wines know that the Clos de la Perrière is a great terroir and a very high-class wine, high-class terroir, and could be considered and classified as a Grand Cru. Today it's very difficult and it perhaps will never happen, but it's okay. It's very okay for us. It's the main thing is to be compared and to be, yes, classified as a Grand Cru, but not with the name of the Grand Cru. It's okay for us. The similarity is the same, nearly the same stones. From the top of the Clos Vougeot, Grand Échezeaux, we have this Cloquera apiculata. It's a very small oyster that we can find there, and we have this similar aromas with the white pepper. It's a bit easy to have this connection between this stone and these aromas, but I believe that in that, and this similar and energy kept with this terroir, with this clos by the monks is very compared. Here the Clos de la Perrière has its strongness compared with the Clos Vougeot, and the Clos Vougeot is sometimes on the top. The guys who make the Clos Vougeot on the top have the strong tannin and the strong structure. You can have this similar in Fixin and in the Clos de la Perrière. And this fineness, very thin herbs and thin aromas you can have in the top, again, of the Clos Vougeot, Grand Échezeaux, and top of the Clos Vougeot. Here is different because it's a monopole, and we have all this influence and complexity. The complexity is really important in the Clos de la Perrière. It's, for me, it's the difference between the more common wine and the Grand Cru, the Grand Vin. We call it Grand Vin. Grand Vin, it's something when the professional talk about wine. Grand Vin is an understanding about the people, house and terroir. It stopped with the appellation d'origine contrôlée in 1935 for Fixin and 1980 for Marsanais. We have some Gamay too, we have some Pinot Bureau, we have some Pinot Blanc, a lot of different grape planted in the Clos de la Perrière and everywhere in Burgundy in the end. And with the appellation d'origine, they try to stop that and to have something clear for the customer. And not before they can blend the Clos de la Perrière and the Chambertin, for example, and have a special cuvée. And why not a very good cuvée? But today it's like that. It's the appellation d'origine. Stop that and say the wine. If you want to call a wine Clos de la Perrière, it's only the wine from the area, and only from Pinot Noir and Pinot Blanc but Pinot Noir mostly for the red and Chardonnay for the white. The oldest plants I have is 90 years old now. And inside we have 5% of different grapes, like Pinot Blanc, like Pinot Bureau, like Gamay, like Aligoté, anything like that. Today, the plantation I make is a bit similar. I try to add very few different grapes inside, but it's less than 1%. But it gives, I think, it's always psychological, we can say. It's a feeling. When I taste this wine, I say yes, there is 0.5% of Gamay, and so that's another complexity I have. I don't talk about, but I have in my mind. So we try to have an average of 50 years old. So the youngest plant in the Clos de la Perrière is 10 years old, and the oldest is 90 years old. And because I am so lucky and so privileged to have all this area, I can make this turnover between the young plants and the old plants. If I have 2 roads in the Clos Vougeot, of course, it's the same age. And to have all this area and have these different roots and the deepness of the roots gave another complexity in the Clos de la Perrière. Stones, of course, the quarry, and all the back of the garden in the Clos de la Perrière is still a quarry, and can be work with to have some stones to make another building. That's why the monks stay here, because of course of the magnetism and the energy of this earth, and because of these facilities with the buildings. So they cut all the stones and explode the works in the quarry, and to have all this stone to make the manoir de la Perrière, and to make the church inside the Fixin, and probably other buildings in Fixin, of course.